Hello and welcome to News 6 Extra. I'm streaming executive producer Thomas Mates, filling in for Julie Broughton. News 6 meteorologist Jonathan Kegas will be filling in for Julie this afternoon, starting on News 6 at 4. I have a spoiler alert for the forecast. It's going to get hot. We'll go more into that in just a few minutes with News 6 chief meteorologist Candace Campos. Also, we're going to be looking at Claremont. It is a city that is undergoing a lot of change. It's seeing a real boom in population, and that comes with it problems, specifically traffic and parking. We're going to take a look at both issues, and we'll get a visit from Donovan Myrie, News 6 investigative reporter. He'll have more, especially on the traffic situation out there, and we'll even show you how you can get some results at home and DIY fix for your screen doors if they're having issues, if they're sticking. News 6 anchor Eric Von Aken will give you all the tips you need to get that fixed. But first, we are taking a look at Leon County this morning. Up in Tallahassee, the accused FSU shooter saw a judge for the first time today and was denied bond. Phoenix Eichner appeared in court this morning just around 11 o'clock. He is accused of opening fire inside of the Florida State Student Union last month, killing 2 workers there. Up until yesterday, Eichner had been in the hospital after being shot in the jaw by law enforcement responding to the campus. He is facing 2 first-degree murder charges and 7 charges of attempted murder. Now, we have covered this story extensively since it first broke last month. The shooting up at FSU. You can find all of our coverage at clickorlando.com, including an in-depth look at Eichner's background, his childhood, and what led up to the shooting at FSU. Again, all of that can be found right now at clickorlando.com. Now, as I said, we are looking at Claremont today. That city is going through a lot of population boom, like much of Central Florida. We are actually hitting the road to that community this week to look at all the issues in the area, but also to highlight the good that's out there. But as I said, traffic is a real concern for people living in that community. To tell us a little bit more about that, we are joined now by News 6 investigative reporter Donovan Myrie. Donovan, how are you doing?
Good, sir. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Better than the drivers out in Claremont, it would seem.
Yeah, like you said, it's all of Florida. A lot of people are moving to Florida. What was that stat that we saw? 1,000 people a day moving to Florida over the past couple of years, and Claremont is no exception. In South Lake County, they have been going through literally like a moving population boom. It's really, really interesting out there. And as you know, from just kind of where you live, I know where you live, you know where I live, and we all kind of have our little bubbles where we live, where we don't kind of go very far in things. And the same thing's happening in Claremont, where all of these things are coming about. You know, there's a Costco up there, there's a Walmart up there. I stopped at a Culver's up there, my favorite place to eat when I actually have to do like traveling outside of very far away from the station and things. And with all of those places, all of that growth, all of that boom, people are able to kind of stay in their bubble, but also people are going through the bubble. People are going to the bubble because, you know, in that part of South Lake County, there's not a lot of places where you can get to a Costco, you can get to a Walmart, and so on and so forth. So it's really interesting. It's a very, very, they find themselves in kind of a conundrum. They like the growth, but with that growth comes a lot of traffic.
We recognize that the traffic can be very bad at times.
Lake County District 2 Commissioner Sean Parks represents Mineola, Montverde, and Claremont. He says all of South Lake County is experiencing unprecedented growth.
It's sort of also a mixed blessing because you get what comes along with the growth, you know, wanting the restaurants, wanting the commerce, wanting the job centers. You know, traffic is going to come along with that as well.
Claremont is just 25 miles or so to the Disney parks and can be accessed via the 429, State Road 192, US 27, and State Road 50. But while convenient, easy access to all those major arteries means that residents aren't the only ones driving to Claremont. Many people are driving through it.
We think we have the best place to live, and that's what's drawing more people. But, you know, there's a lot of other people that are just going through Lake County as they're going to some other part of Florida.
And as for the residents,
we know that about 70% of our population drives some other place to go to work. So that in itself is a huge problem.
News 6 received close to a dozen messages from neighbors fed up with the traffic. The problem is especially prevalent on State Road 50 and US 27. We asked Commissioner Parks if anything can be done to fix this. He tells News 6 there's a $710 million shortfall to upgrade roads in Lake County, and that in the next 6 months, leaders in Claremont, the county, and other cities are going to discuss how to bridge the gap and fund some of these projects. Possible solutions include reallocating the penny sales tax, using more money from property taxes, or an additional gas tax. In the meantime, government leaders have come up with some road plans that have recently broken ground. The new 516 toll connector will provide a direct route between the 429 and US 27. Meanwhile, improvements on Schofield Road and access through Wellness Way will eventually give drivers more options.
I'm really excited about the relief in South Lake County that can be achieved when we open up the State Road 516.
Commissioner Parks says that project, also known as the Lake Orange Expressway, is within 2 to 3 years of being finished. As for some other improvements,
also the connection made through Wellness Way Boulevard in itself that will go from Highway 27 to the new Independence Parkway. There's some other local roads that are going to help us with that east-west connection through Wellness Way as also that I think within the next couple of years you're going to see a very noticeable relief.
In Claremont, Donovan Myrie, News 6.
Thomas, that's a lot. It really is.
It is.
It really is a lot to absorb. If you're familiar with Claremont, US 27 runs from I-4 all the way through Claremont. State Road 50 comes across. The 429 kind of is from the bottom part and connects with 27 so you can get up into Claremont. But it really is kind of, when I was talking to Commissioner Parks, I said, it feels like X marks the spot. Like everything kind of runs through Claremont. And he goes, yeah, that's the big problem that, to get to other parts of Lake County, you're going east-west, you're going north-south. And that's that part of people traveling through Claremont. And then on top of that, 70% of the people are leaving Claremont every day to go to work. And that's where Wellness Way comes into play. Wellness Way and the physical road is Wellness Way Boulevard, but it's that idea of basically creating an employment center where companies can set up and get people to work within Claremont. That way you're not having as long as a commute. You might be able to walk to work. You might be able to bike to work. But so it's kind of keeping people from Claremont in Claremont. Lots of plans, lots of things to do. But again, towards the end of that piece, we talked about that $710 million deficit because they may have Wellness Way on its way. They may have the 516 on its way, but there's a lot of other projects that they have to deal with. Schofield Road, if you're familiar with that, it's an exit off of 429. It is nice once you get going, but man, there's a windy part that I can just see backing up like crazy.
Yeah. And we know that Florida voters and taxpayers tend to be a little tax adverse. And so we've seen attempts to, levy taxes, gas taxes, dollar or 1 cent sales tax,
penny tax.
Yeah, all across the area for various reasons, and oftentimes they just do not succeed. So trying to make up that $710 million deficit without increasing revenue may be just a bridge too far. The one thing that always catches my ear is when people talk about State Road 50. When I first moved here, I think it was Ken Pilcher referred to State Road 50 as the devil's designated thoroughfare. It is a problem all across everywhere it cuts through. It's like, certainly I think there are people who would welcome attempting to widen it, but as he said, that comes at a steep cost, and you're already talking about a deficit that goes off the cliff.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize State Road 50 pretty much runs coast to coast. My parents used to be down in St. Petersburg, and there was one day I was coming back from them. Usually I take I-4, and Waze literally took me up 75 across State Road 50, like starting in Brooksville. And I had never gone that way before. And then all of a sudden I'm going, my goodness, I'm in Claremont and then Winter Garden. And I didn't realize that kind of all of that linked together. And then just this weekend, my wife and I were over on the East Coast, and we were coming back through State Road 50 that then dropped us on the 408 to get us back to Winter Park where we live. So State Road 50, yeah, it's a big road. And as Commissioner Parks talked about, you can't always widen roads. Sometimes there's physically no room, nowhere to go. And then, as you pointed out, that whole thing where people are, how do you raise money for this stuff? And they're pushing back on taxes. The biggest problem we have in Florida is we don't have a state income tax. A lot of other states with that state income tax, it goes to things like roads and infrastructure and widening and new projects. And we don't have that. So when you get a new road like the 516 or the 408 or the 429, a lot of that stuff is basically paid for by the tolls, and you may
Hmm.
end up paying couple $100 a year depending on how frequently you use it. But you got to remember, you're not paying a state income tax of thousands of dollars a year.
Hmm.
So the money has to come from somewhere. You can only dip into that penny sales tax so much. You can only dip into that property tax so much. And then nobody wants to talk about higher gas prices.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claremont is a microcosm of what's happening all across the state, all across Central Florida. At the very least, as we know, it's growing by leaps and bounds, and it's just going to be a problem that's going to need a solution sooner or later. And I know there's a bunch of different irons in the fire to try and come up with that, but it doesn't. I don't know that there's like a silver bullet out there just yet.
I don't think there is. It's Commissioner Parks. In my web article, I go into a lot more detail, and one of the things that he says in the web article is he talked about 20 years ago. They wanted to talk about this. It was a hard conversation to have because they're going, okay, we want to grow, but where's all this money going to come from? And he had a quote of, "We have to do something. We can't just stick our head in the sand and hope for the best." And they're really trying to do something, but they have some hard decisions to make over the
Hmm.
next few years. Again, that's $710 million. Where's it going to come from? What's it going to do? And it's not just Claremont; it's all of those cities in South Lake County. And like he said, you're cutting through Claremont to get to other parts of the county, whether it's going north, south, east, west. And again, it's kind of X marks the spot.
Hmm.
So, and your point about it's a microcosm for what's going on all across Florida, it is,
Hmm.
because how many times have you been driving and off in the distance you just see a new development like coming up. Emily McLeod yesterday did a story in Astatula. They're having problems with developers
Hmm.
because they don't know how they're going to get water to these new developments. We're running out of water. That is insane. We're
Hmm.
surrounded by water and we're running out of water. So it's water, it's infrastructure, it's widening of roads, it's traffic. There's a lot going on, and over the next few decades, you're going to see some tough questions pretty much have to be
Hmm.
answered and addressed in things.
Yeah, absolutely. And Claremont used to be, kind of a sleepy rural suburb of Orlando. That's why so many people commute for work from there, because it was, a more affordable place to live, and you can commute into work, and that's sort of your trade-off. But then, once the pandemic hit, we know a lot of people moved out of cities and started moving more and more into those rural locations, and then you see the boom, and people are still commuting if they're not working remotely. So it's just that's like compound interest. It just keeps rolling over and causing those
Hmm.
issues.
Yeah, and it's tough because you have room to grow out there. Where you look
Hmm.
at some places here in Orlando, and you have basically zero lot lines. Basically, have a house, a driveway, maybe a garage, and almost no yard.
Hmm.
Out there, you really do have room to grow, but so do 800 of your closest friends
Yes.
in the new development that you're going to.
Room to
You
grow,
know,
but not the
um,
infrastructure.
Exactly, and again, that story that Emily did yesterday in Astatula, wow. I
Hmm.
mean, when I first heard about it last week, I talked to the mayor and I said, "Water?" And he goes, "Water. We're having a water crisis." And I think they're having a town meeting tonight with the town council to kind of put a moratorium on building. But then, that's hard. That's hard to
Hmm.
say to developers, "Don't come here and build." But the logic is, we're not ready for you. We can't handle your idea of building and basically be able to provide you with the services that you really need. So, kind of, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Hmm.
But there's got to be a compromise. And again, it is not just Claremont. It's not just Astatula. It's a lot of these places. There's a lot of land outside of Orlando
Hmm.
to be developed, and developers are just chomping at the bit to get going on their projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Donovan, thank you so much for your time and your expertise on this. As he mentioned, you can find his story right now on clickorlando.com. You can see it right here. It's right on the homepage. He goes into more detail, and there I am. Goes into much more detail on the issues they're facing and possible solutions, and of course, as we said, that deficit. Donovan, thanks again. I really appreciate your time.
Mr. Mates, you are awesome. Thank you so much.
Yep, no problem. All right, now as we mentioned before, with traffic also comes parking issues. Downtown Claremont can be a difficult place to find parking these days. It's an area that used to be known for kind of small town charm, but it's seeing a real boom right now. News 6 anchor Lisa Bell takes a look at those issues.
20 years ago, it wasn't uncommon to come downtown, and by 5 o'clock, pretty much everything was closed up. You could find ample parking because nobody was here. And now we have a bustling downtown.
Amanda Netherow owns New Heights Communication, a marketing and PR firm on Montrose Street in the heart of downtown. She's also on the board for Claremont Main Street.
It's not uncommon to see a ton of people downtown on Saturday night, whether they're parking their boat and coming up to the downtown area, or they went on a run in the morning and they're coming up to get some coffee and breakfast. You see people throughout the day, which is fantastic.
How did that happen? How did it go from kind of like a sleepy Main Street after 5 to what it is today?
Honestly, I give it to a lot of our downtown businesses.
They've invested in murals and hosting special events like wine walks, food truck Fridays, and weekly farmers markets. And their efforts seem to have paid off.
You can't buy better marketing than people taking a selfie in front of a gorgeous mural.
Over the past decade, Claremont's population has nearly doubled. The city is currently developing the so-called lumberyard district along Lake Minneola, bringing in even more shops, restaurants, and apartments.
As a business owner, we're thrilled, but we are busting at the seams.
The lack of parking is a concern News 6 has covered before. In February of 2024, News 6's Justin Warmoth spoke with Amanda Walsh, who owns the downtown fixture, Cheezer's Palace Cafe.
Here's the problem. We already have trouble with parking. That's the number one negative issue with our historic downtown. We got to park somewhere, and we're running out of room.
If you're looking at potential parking spots.
So I took the concerns to interim city manager Rick Van Wagner.
We have about 1,000 plus parking spaces available in the downtown, but we did a parking study in 2024, and during regular hours, we have adequate parking, but when we do events or any big draws, it's just not enough for us right now.
The parking study he's referring to found that during non-event days, there is adequate parking. But whenever there is a big event, which is happening more and more frequently, more than 90% of spaces are filled up.
So what is the solution for that?
Well, the council is discussing off and on about a parking garage, so there is discussions that are ongoing, and I'm hopeful that we'll come to some conclusion and perhaps do that in the near future.
Parking garage seems like a big undertaking. If that were to happen, how long before we would actually see some infrastructure like that?
It's probably a couple years.
That was News 6 anchor Lisa Bell reporting. She'll be live in Claremont this afternoon, starting on News 6 at 4. Again, you can find all of our stories on Claremont at clickorlando.com. And if you head to clickorlando.com/hitstheroad, you can take a look at all of our previous coverage that we've done across several communities here in Central Florida. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll get a look at how to repair a stuck screen door. And also, we'll get a check on your forecast. It's going to get hot out there, people, but that'll be coming up in just about 2 minutes.
And this must be Allison?
Yes.
Who's this?
This is Leo.
Hi, Leo. You gonna help us?
He might.
I don't think so. So it's stuck open?
It's supposed to push and go back.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's much we can do with it other than replace it, so we're gonna do that.
All right, sounds good.
Allison watched the last time we did this. We're gonna try this one. This time we're taking everything off and putting in a brand new one. Step one, remove. Step two is to install the brackets, and it just so happens that this bracket is same exact as the old one, so the screw holes all line up. If not, that's okay. You could probably just push on the screw hard enough as you're going in to get through the aluminum. If not, just drill a small hole. Now take the short pin and connect this end. I'm gonna close the door, and I'll know exactly where to put the screws for this bracket into the door. This is a pressure screw, so the more you tighten it, the slower the door closes. Let's test it. Would you stop?
Hey, Eric, can you give me a hand? Please, I need you to hold the door open for me. No, actually, from the inside. Yeah, that's good. Close it just a little bit. Can you move your hand? You're in the way. Move your hand.
Where do you want me to put it?
Can you just take a step back? Oopsies.
Wait till it's your turn.
What happened?
Well,
that towel. Looks
you,
like
Allison.
you need it. Did you fix my door?
So yeah, a lot happened, as you saw. Most importantly, we got that done. Watch this.
Well,
Best part of the
thank
day,
you.
right?
All right.
Getting results at home.
That's right. Thank you.
Eric Von Aken goes far for his craft. we have a program that we're taking a look at today. Stephanie Rodriguez went out and checked out this program, a special camp that is giving kids and young adults life skills that can help them find employment. Here's a look at her story from this morning.
Children Enriched with Opportunities is enrolling for its 10-week summer program to give children a world of possibilities and teach them what it takes to achieve them.
So these are some of the computers that were donated to our students.
The Denton Johnson Center in Eatonville is just one of the places students enrolled in Children Enriched with Opportunity learn about adulthood.
We're not only employment specialists, but we're mentors to the students. So we're able to work alongside them.
The nonprofit holds programs year-round when school is out. They work with 14 to 21-year-olds on career opportunities, financial literacy, and college or trade school preparation. They hope to reach more students by partnering with schools because learning the building blocks of life prepares them for what comes next.
So they come in and they teach the students not only about balancing your account, but also about the monthly bills that you have to pay and the expenditures that have to go out that sometimes our students aren't aware that their parents are paying.
No matter what path they choose, they leave with more options than they ever imagined possible.
We had students that have done an array of things, and it's because of programs such as this and being able to pour into them, you know, opportunities that sometimes they haven't been able to tap into or discover.
This summer, they're offering 2 in-person sessions, one here in Eatonville and the other in Holly Hill in Volusia County. They also have an online option. They're actively enrolling, but space is limited. Head to clickorlando.com to see how your child can apply. Reporting in Eatonville, Stephanie Rodriguez, News 6.
Now we want to get a check on your forecast. As you well know, it was a rainy weekend, but the rain is gone and the heat has returned. News 6 Chief Meteorologist Candace Campos has more on that.
A dense fog advisory remains in effect across a big part of central Florida until about 8 a.m. on this Tuesday morning. That does include areas of Volusia, Brevard, Seminole, Orange, and Osceola County, as visibility at times could get down to less than about a quarter of a mile. Again, just a few hours after about sunrise. Now, what to expect for the next couple of days? For today, much drier. We will see a lot more sunshine, temperatures running near normal in those mid-80s. But then we're gradually going to really start heating up those temperatures by Friday and into the weekend, with feels like temperatures flirting with those triple digits. Now, looking here at the water vapor imagery, the same upper level low that brought us all that moisture for the past 7 days has now pushed the moisture out. Now it's bringing in the dry air behind it, and all that dry air is going to continue to really limit those rain chances in the forecast. From now until at least throughout the weekend, you can see clouds and rain forecast still showing up, a couple pop-up scattered showers possible by 2-3 o'clock. Rain chances for this afternoon staying at a very low 20%. So as we take it here hour by hour, if you kind of had a little bit of cabin fever because of all the rain for the past couple of days, today will be a nice day to be outside throughout the majority of the afternoon, albeit still on the muggy side. We're in those mid-80s this afternoon with rain chances again by 4 p.m. Their highest will be only about 20%. Then as we continue into the next couple of days, even more dry air will continue to filter into central Florida. And because we won't have any rain relief, it's going to be all about the heat. Looking at the temperature outlook from basically this weekend beyond, let's say within the next 6 to 10 days, it looks like we could be flirting with near record highs for a few days. That's something to be on watch for. And as we get results here, your full 7-day forecast is looking mostly dry, mostly sunny across the board after a foggy morning today. And then you can see temperatures, actual air temperatures back into the mid-90s Saturday, Sunday, and even into early next week.
That'll do it for us. That will do it for us here on News 6 Extra. We appreciate your time today. We will be back starting on News 6 at 4. News 6 meteorologist Jonathan Kagas will be in for Julie Broughton. He'll have your forecast, and of course, we'll have all the day's headlines. And of course, we will be live out in Claremont. News 6 anchor Lisa Bell will be out there starting on News 6 at 4. Thank you so much for watching us, and have a pleasant day.